Welcome back to the Opposition Podcast number 30. But the first
30.
for 2025. Rukshan, mate.
Happy New Year.
Happy
That's
New
it.
Year.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.
Happy Hanukkah.
It's
So
Happy
be
Hanukkah.
inclusive, mate.
Happy Diwali. What else is there?
Is that that's this time of year? No.
No, it's not. It's not.
So now you're just being diverse
But no,
for the sake of it.
I'm being diverse. But it's good to be back. New Year 2025, and as the title states, we'll probably get into this later. It has been off to a bit of a bang, to excuse the pun.
What a year already, and we're on day 2.
Yeah, it's crazy.
I was excited for 2025.
Yeah, 2024. You're happy with how the year went and wrapped all up?
I think at the end of the year, I was happy with it, but I think, and the reason why I was happy with it because you had kind of an idea of how 2025 will go, and
yeah,
I guess today's interesting. There's good and there's bad, but
yeah,
I definitely have a lot of hope. How was your New Year, firstly?
Yeah, my New Year was good. Just a bit of a quiet one. Didn't get up to too much, so just kind of boarding the year with. No, not like that. No, not at all.
Really?
Nah. Did you? How was your New Year? What did you get up to?
I'm so.
You don't even remember?
I remember parts of it. It's all very vague. So you had no gin and tonics?
Not on New Year's Day, no.
When did you have gin and tonics?
I think 2 or 3 days beforehand.
2 or 3 days beforehand, you had gin and tonics?
Someone gave me gin and tonics.
Oh, is that at my house?
Yeah, your place.
So that's the last gin and tonics?
Yeah. By the way, I got the present that Benji gave me. I still haven't opened it. My Christmas present. Do you mind if I open it on?
Should we start that now? That's I guess.
Huh?
I guess we better start with that now because it's way over Christmas. So for those of you who don't know,
this is from Benji to me because he got Avi a present and he got me one as well. So I said I'll open it live on the show for him. So
I looked up how much my present was worth. Mine was about $70.
How much was your present worth?
About $70.
$70?
Let's see what yours is.
Oh my God.
What is that?
Sorry for swearing.
What is that?
That's Benji.
He got you a pack of Red Bulls. He got me a $70 vodka.
He actually wrapped it up.
Do you know what though? Like vodka Red Bulls.
I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say.
I haven't had vodka Red Bulls in a while. I guess maybe
I'll hand this over to you.
What'd you say? You'll sell it to me?
I might as well.
Why don't you repack it?
Repack it, and I can't even re-gift it. It's not even something you can re-gift to someone. You know, you normally get a gift and you can pass it on to someone else, but bloody people, I don't know what people will think of me. Benji is the only person that can get away with gifting someone a 4-pack of Red Bull for Christmas.
Did you get him a present?
Yes.
Really?
Yeah.
Because my sources say that you didn't, that you just gave him what I gave you to give him.
No, all I know is you didn't get him a present, but I got him a present, and then you claimed that present was from you, but you have got him absolutely nothing. So
wait, so let's just. So what you're trying to say is that you got him a present, and you got 4 Red Bulls. I didn't get him a present, and I got a $70 bottle of vodka.
Yeah, pretty much.
How does it work?
I don't know.
All right, on that note, Benji, we want to thank you for your participation. I'm glad that you got my gift from Rukshan.
Yeah.
For all the viewers out there, welcome to 2025. Welcome back to the Opposition Podcast, today's going to be interesting. We're going to do it in, 3 stages.
Yeah.
Start here. This is on all the platforms. Then we're going to go, because we're going to cover all the news. And like I said, Rukshan, I can't believe it's only day 2. So much has happened, not only since the beginning of the year, also since our last show, which was 2 weeks ago, because somebody decided that they wouldn't rock up last week.
Yep.
So There's a couple of big stories that happened in between, but most of what we're going to discuss actually is since the new year. And one of the stories that we want to talk about tonight is actually it's insane because it's trending on Twitter.
Yeah.
And it's something that's pretty close to my heart. I'm pretty knowledgeable about the situation, and I'm excited to see that the world is finally talking about it, because I've been talking about it for probably 5 or 6 years. It's about a good friend of mine, who we're not allowed to say his name on some of these on some of the platforms.
It's insane. Like, just even, it's not even like talking about COVID. You can't actually say this person's name, really.
Yeah, well, it depends. You can actually say if you're condemning him, if it's negative, you'll be able to get to say it. And I'm not exaggerating. I've literally lost hundreds of thousands of followers on Meta for even sharing a photo with him. So we're going to discuss that, but that'll be just so. We're going to do the first stage where we talk about all the other issues making news. Then we're going to talk about that big story, which is actually unfolding as we speak. So in the last 24 hours, it's been, in the last probably 12 hours, it's been trending across Twitter around the world. But you got to remember, England is just waking up to it. And I know I'm not giving anything away. I don't mind talking about it, but we just can't mention the name. So we'll go into all that once we move off the main platforms. And then in that period, I don't know, we've been doing that thing where we take some calls. Depends how the conversation. We've got no extra guests tonight, so maybe we'll take a call or two even while on those platforms if you want to call in. But we'll stick around for the last couple of minutes at theopposition.show exclusively. So you've got to go theopposition.show. You need to register as a member, and then you can actually call into the show by pressing the button. I'll show that to everybody. I'll pull it up on the website to show you how to do it. It's very easy. Theopposition.show. Go to today's episode. There's a button below that in which you can actually call in. You'll sit in a waiting room, and either in the last 20 minutes we'll bring you in, or once we move over just to the private group, which is much smaller, that is just for members only. But having done all that, where should we start? I think probably the more serious news.
I think so. The most that's just been unfolding today. So many of you might already know this. We've had what looks like multiple terrorist attacks in the United States of America. So in New Orleans and also in Las Vegas. So
I'm just pulling up the links that you've sent me. I haven't even had a chance.
Yeah, there's a few. I think you can just pull up a news article, maybe just look it up, just so give a bit of people context. But New Orleans, we've had that horrific terror incident where an individual in a pickup truck, in a white pickup truck with allegedly an ISIS flag attached to the back of it, has run down a road after mounting a sidewalk and getting in front of a police vehicle, and then run over, I believe, multiple people. I think there's probably like 40, 50 people that are impacted by this in terms of injuries
already.
And 15 deceased confirmed for now. And I believe there's a few others probably in some type of intensive care.
This is Bourbon Street just behind me. This is a really well-known part of New Orleans in the historic French Quarter, a place that is really a magnet for tourists. And we're the suspect, the person that they believe was responsible for driving a pickup.
I'll turn down the volume, see if they show any. Sorry. Oh, here we go. So break it down. What we know so far.
Well, what we know so far is we know the terrorist is a U.S. citizen. He's in this pickup truck, which has crossed over the southern border 2 days prior. We also know that he's ex-military. He's recently converted to Islam as well, and he goes to a mosque.
Was he recently converted, or was he just become religious and declared ISIS?
I think from what I've read, someone in the comments can correct me, he has converted. Not recently, but he's converted over the last few years.
Wow. The driver crashed the pickup truck through the crowd about 3:15 a.m. on Wednesday night. So that's New Year's Eve celebrations in the party district of the French Quarter.
And you got to understand, this is, I think, 3 a.m. in the morning. People obviously had a big night after New Year's celebrations. They're unawares of like, you know, the surroundings. A lot of people out on the streets in New Orleans, which is like full of bars. People are drunk out on the street, and this maniac terrorist just kind of plows through them. And the actual videos of it, which we probably won't play on this, is quite horrific of people being run down. A lot of this, if you want to have a look, you can find it on X. There's lots of videos that people have taken on their mobile phones, and it's horrific to see people just, you know, on the street having a night out, finding themselves murdered in this horrific terror incident. But what's been interesting since obviously this story, the response has raised a lot of eyebrows from the FBI. We've had initially the FBI saying, we had the law enforcement, the local law enforcement in New Orleans saying that it's a, you know, terrorist attack, and then, you know, a couple of minutes later we had the FBI saying it's not a terrorist attack, even though they found improvised explosive devices.
Even though he was flying an ISIS flag.
And
literally even an ISIS flag mounted to
exactly.
the
They had and the initial photos that came out of the vehicle that he was driving had the ISIS flag covered by a jumper of some sort, like tied up and hidden. And later on, now we've seen more closer images of this ISIS flag. So clearly there is that link to extreme Islamic terrorism through ISIS that we're seeing. Obviously, this is still being looked into. They were looking into other people as well, whether he's had accomplices, because they found pipe bombs and these type of weapons, explosive devices scattered throughout the area as well in New Orleans. So it is coming together, looking like not just a guy in a pickup truck that decided to, run a bunch of people over. It's been planned out. He's organized some type of massive casualty event, because when he actually ran over and got out of the car, he had weapons on him to actually shoot more people as well, until he was gunned down by the police. So this was someone who was intent on causing as much carnage as he could during that time. So police are investigating. They're also looking for accomplices. They've obviously, I believe, raided some properties. There's other explosions which have happened nearby, apparently in an Airbnb that they suspect. So it's a lot of stuff in the air, but the most interesting part was the FBI initially saying that they don't think it's a terrorist attack. And I think a lot of people...
what is it that makes them jump to that, reaction? They tend to always do that. Even when it's so obvious, like, no, don't jump to any conclusions, ladies and gentlemen. Forget about don't believe your eyes when you see an ISIS flag.
Yeah.
Why do you think
exactly?
They do that?
And I don't know. I don't know if it's just like, obviously, poor hiring practices at the FBI, and the people working there are not that sufficient at public communications. Because what happens is, when they do that, especially so early on, when it's so obvious that it looks like a terror attack, and you have internet sleuths already picking up on these clues, people start distrusting the FBI. And already we know the FBI is one of the most distrusted organizations within the USA for many different reasons. So this has already created that distrust around this issue, and people are rightly concerned whether this organization is capable of actually handling this scenario. And on top of that, of course, we've also had in Las Vegas, in front of the Trump Hotel, another attack, which seems very symbolic in the manner it's been done. So you have a Tesla Cybertruck. Of course, Tesla is a company that's run by Elon Musk, who's a part of the Trump campaign. You have a Cybertruck that's parked in front of the Trump Hotel, right in front, and then it explodes. And, that raises a lot of questions in terms of the symbolism of doing something like that, whether these attacks are linked. And there's a few reasons that people think that these attacks are linked as well. So you're looking at possibly a terror cell, some type of coordination on these attacks. Now, none of this is officially confirmed, but the links that we have so far is that particular Cybertruck and the van that was used by the white pickup truck that was used by the New Orleans terrorist was rented from the same rental company. So that's one link. They're both now have been identified as ex-military. So even the bloke that allegedly blew up the Cybertruck with his improvised explosives, which included fireworks, a gas cylinder, and a few other things, he is also ex-military. And now they've even established...
Here we go.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's the guy from the Cybertruck. So he's ex-special forces, or he might even be actually serving in some capacity as like a what do you call those guys that go over to the Ukraine and fight like a
the
contractors? Yeah, so he's serving in that capacity as well. So this is the individual that's been identified for the Cybertruck explosion. And just before I came on the show with you, the breaking news was that this particular individual served alongside the other particular individual in the same like camp as well. So yeah, so there's that link as well. We don't know what their relationship was and if they knew each other, but they have been linked back to the same military base as well. So there's all these kind of links coming out, and it's crazy, right, Avi? So you have this like internet sleuths on X and other platforms like Reddit putting all these pieces together, gathering all this information, and by the time the news kind of picks up on it and puts this information out to the public, either it's very different to how it's interpreted online and they kind of keep a lot of information out of the public eye, or they ignore it altogether. But I think it's so many different connections coming out at the moment.
Yeah, it's an insane story. I guess there's a few things. Like, firstly, let's look at because I was a bit surprised about the background that was already coming out of the first guy. Now I didn't even get a chance to read this yet.
Yeah.
It seems a bit convenient that they did you say serve together?
Not serve together, but they're at the same base. Or
okay. But even so, that's super weird,
Yeah. So they're definitely looking for links between them and trying to see if there's a stronger connection between the two of them. Yeah, because it's a first. I get it. It's just after New Year's, but you have these two kind of terror attacks, and they both hired from the same rental company, and they're both ex-military. Like the coincidences, that's a lot of coincidences so far.
Yeah, and it's like even this guy, he has such a bizarre background, and there's just. Do you see videos of him?
Was a real estate agent as well.
Yeah, something, and he just seems super normal.
Yeah, no, he was super normal, and so he's gone in the military, and then you have all this video history of him being super normal. But apparently, the day before the attack, or just hours before the attack, he was uploading videos onto Facebook, talking about the reason for his attack. So those videos and stuff have been taken down.
I haven't seen those. I heard them being reported.
Have you seen people close to law enforcement? No, but so apparently law enforcement has some of those videos. So he's stating his reasons for doing what he's doing. So we don't really have that.
It's weird that nobody's published it yet. I'm surprised.
Yeah, and the other thing that's come out is that the mosque that he was attending has also put out a statement to the rest of the members of the mosque saying to, don't cooperate with the media, obviously, and also. Before you go to the FBI or the police, if they want to question you, please come to our organization first to guide you through that process. So, because there are concerns that
I saw he was radicalized. You sent me. Where was that? Let me just see if I can find it.
See if you can find the letter. But there's concerns that he was radicalized at the particular mosque, and there might be other people involved there as well.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, posting the mosque reportedly attended by the terrorists, instructing members to refer all inquiries by the FBI, law enforcement, and media to legal representation of carriers, and he's like the official peak body. What does it stand for? It's like the American peak body of Islamic.
It's like Islamic Council here. Is that similar to that?
Yeah, it's like the Islamic Council, and since October 7, they've been like full on radical. I think they've been like that for years. I think people are just finally realizing it.
So look, it's an evolving story, and I think there's a lot more to it, especially if they haven't really said that they still suspect there's more people connected to it that are out there, especially from the New Orleans one. So they're still pursuing that particular angle. So that might be why they're being a bit hesitant to release more information as they try to find these people and make these links and go through the electronic devices and communications, just in case there is more attacks planned or whatever it is, especially, if it is like some of us suspect that these two people are somehow linked as well. There's a possibility that there might be other attacks planned in other states, because both of these individuals have driven across borders, hundreds of miles, whatever, and done these attacks in seemingly random states. So why New Orleans? Like there's questions being asked about why that particular spot. What's important about that? So definitely starting the year off like this with this increased terror threat in the USA makes us also wonder about the increased terror threat throughout the rest of the world as well, including Australia, because you are seeing even before, during Christmas, we had that attack in Germany. So these type of attacks are increasing. So I think a lot of us really have to be mindful about the types of extremism which is being allowed in our communities, firstly, and also whether our intelligence agencies are prepared to handle some of these type of situations, especially if they get intel and warnings. Because most of the time, Avi, what happens is with these cases, you find out later on the FBI comes out and says he's been on our radar, right? We've been watching him, or we've already investigated him, but we've let him go. So more often than not, that's usually what happens when it comes to these type of cases. Avi, are you there? Have I lost you completely? I think it's just me by myself. What's happened to Avi Yemeni? He has disappeared. Let's see. Can everyone still hear me? Let me know if you can hear me, guys. I don't know what's happened to Avi. He has completely disappeared. Did they get Avi? Someone's saying, oh no, they got Avi. I have no control over the stream, so I'm just going to have to keep talking because I have no idea what's happened to Avi Yemeni. I'm just still on the stream. Hopefully he can hear me. Let me just try to get him on the mobile phone. Just make sure he's okay. Give me a second. I'm just messaging him now. All right, he's having some technical difficulty, so I will carry on. All right, so let's have a look at what's happening in terms of this particular incident at the moment. Let me just check for the latest news. So I'll try to actually read some of your comments as well while Avi fixes his technical issues. Someone's saying Avi knows too much. They've taken him out. Someone's asking for our phone numbers. No. All right, guys, I'm just trying to wait till messaging Avi, trying to get him to fix his technical issue and get him back on here. So just hold on a minute. He's doing what he has to do. Avi's studio is B grade. You can't say that because I help him put it together. So I don't know. I think maybe he's trying something else. Who knows? It's aliens. Yeah, look, Avi might have been abducted by aliens. Who knows? I am trying to keep going, but I have no access to the actual the screens. I can't show you anything. I can't change anything. It's just stuck on my screen. You all right?
They tried to hijack my show.
I didn't try to do anything. I didn't know what happened.
Benji, where's Benji when we need him?
I know, exactly.
Anyways, so where were you? What were you talking about? I think everyone fell asleep.
I was talking about the individual, but that's okay. We can move on now. So, do you have anything to add about these terror attacks?
I think firstly the reaction from all sides were wild. I think there was one that you sent me here. I think this is a great example of it. Like people who don't know what to do, what to do when events happen that don't kind of suit their narrative anymore. And so it was kind of a joke somebody sent me going, oh, I wonder how Candace Owens is going to blame the Jews for this one. Because you've got a guy who's literally done what we got used to almost seeing in 2016, 2017, in that period, or 2014 to 2017, I think we used to see, these kind of vehicle attacks. And there's a lot of questions around it because there is actually a bollard set up there that should have, but I think they're under construction.
There's a few failures there. Yeah, they had spent like I think $40 million on doing that type of on the bollards and all that kind of infrastructure, but there were some issues with it, and they just put a police vehicle along in the middle to block it. But
and he just kind of drove around it.
He managed to drive around it. So yeah, there are those issues. But like you said, I did see Candace Owens actually initially say that the guy was Iranian. That was like left of field because no one really. I didn't see that anywhere, but she came out saying he's Iranian first.
She said I'm guessing from his name, he doesn't sound Texan. Yeah. He's Iranian. And the thing that's wild to me is in the time that she spent formulating that post, why didn't she just Google the name? You can just Google the name and its origin, and it'll tell you. And anyone who knows anything about the Middle East would know that that's not an Iranian name. It's not a Persian name. But
that's what all the Persians are saying, yeah.
Yeah, but so I guess it demonstrates how, when you kind of come
at some preconceived idea,
and you really want somebody to work out the way you kind of she wanted it to be that way so that it explained her whole narrative, because it's really hard for her. Lately she's been saying everything is what's the idea behind what she's saying? She's saying if it's Iran, if it's anything to do with Iran or somebody blames it on Iran, then it's encouraging us to go to war with Iran, which is exactly what Israel wants, and that's the whole shtick. And but the mistake she made is it was too obvious that she had no idea what she was talking about, and she has no idea what she's talking about when it comes to the Middle East in general, because something so basic like somebody's name, which is also just like, as a journalist, is the easiest thing to fact check. She didn't even bother doing that. She just assumed, it sounds kind of Muslim and ethnic. It's probably Iranian, not knowing that, just because certain countries are Islamic and there's different sects of Islam and they have essentially names that their that say their nationality straight away, and every Iranian jumped up. I saw on Twitter immediately going, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, I saw that.
But it's it just exposes their bias, the same bias that they claim everybody else has. These people who for many years acted like they were on our side, they seemed to have it as well. And when it turned out, I think this one that you sent me, when it turned out that it was clearly not an Iranian, but he had an ISIS flag. So then the mental gymnastics is, well, that is a US and Israel ally. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen it, I think, now across the last couple of months, because I've been paying more attention to it. And like almost anything that happens, the first thing that I see, especially on X these days, is that it's the Jews. Somehow it's the Jews, somehow it's connected to Israel. And this is like completely random things sometimes as well. But people are able to make this connection somehow. Like this,
you can make anything. You can connect anything.
Yeah, it's this mental gymnastics that's done, and it's like, wow, how many things are, I'm just talking as someone just completely out of this, how many things is like the Jews doing at the one time? Like how many things are they coordinating? Like almost everything. Like if you ask anyone, they will attribute everything to the Jews, and it's kind of become like that, where it's old and tired, and it's like, okay, like these are serious people, these are journalists, and this is like now your go-to for everything. And it's kind of even if this was the case, like you kind of like the boy who cried wolf now, all these individuals, and it's kind of become like that.
To me, it's funny. It's like the question everything crowd, who many of them blindly follow people like Candace Owens, who the initial reaction of anything somehow is Israel or the Jews or whatever name she's calling. You know, she often tries to be a bit more sophisticated about it by calling them like different things like Frankish. So, you know what? To be franked, Frank, shit, I didn't even know had any correlation to Jews, but she's come up with these different ways. But at the end of the day, it always comes down to Israel and the Jews, and so and this like question everything crowd just seem to not question the person who just reacts to everything by saying it's the Jews, it's the Jews, it's the Jews, it's the Jews. It's like, man, can you at least provide some evidence of it? And the funny thing is, in this case, and that's why I'm glad, because people like her are showing their true colors. Is like, in this case, what she was saying was so obviously and factually wrong based on the one piece of evidence she was providing that it's embarrassing, because it just shows your true colors, that all you care about is I want to be able to blame Israel and the Jews, as if Islamic terrorism hasn't existed. The violence of Islamists hasn't existed for a lot longer than the modern state of Israel. It's just like, and you're right.
Yeah, I see a lot more people like calling her out on it now. Not just her.
Yeah,
there's a few people that are doing this at the moment, and they're all being called out, and they're being called out within the same circles. Because I think, like I said, it's kind of become like the boy who cried wolf over and over, and no evidence is being provided. It's just being said, and it's just a convenient way. And now everyone just looks ridiculous if you go with this kind of same narrative each and every single time. It just muddies everything, and everyone just looks unintelligible when they're discussing this topic. So people are calling it out.
I think it's more.
There is a bit of a change happening. Yeah, it's embarrassing in a way as well.
Look, I can see the temptation of some of these people to go down that route, because if you look on social media since October 7, and as content creators, like you'd understand this, audience captures really, you know, it can be a strong thing. And when you have when you see the kind of fast growth you can get by spinning this one narrative, you look at these people like that Suleiman or whatever his name is, in like these guys, they had nothing, they've done nothing, and then since October 7, they've just, if you look at their feed, it's just maybe 50 posts a day and all about Jews or Israel. And a bunch of them go viral, and they've grown. They've exploded. Their pages have exploded.
I mean, look, there seems to be this might be a crude way of saying this, but there seems to be a market for it's the Jews speculation online.
There's always been a market. There's always been a market
for it, but it's one of the things with Musk's X, which I think we'll probably talk about later as well.
Yeah,
is that it's allowed more of the kind of this free speech dialogue to happen. So people are more openly expressing this type of sentiment, and there are bad actors who are just obviously engagement farming and really just using it to spread their particular worldview. They don't really care about the truth in any respects, but it helps them. So that's really just made it explode. And I'm someone that's very kind of pro X and everything that's happening on there, but there is an element of that happening where there are in not just with this issue but many different issues, individuals who are just there engagement farming and looking for clicks and looking to monetize what they do with sensation.
Tweet. I can't remember who did it. It's like all the things they blame the Jews for. It's like literally like somebody farted in an airport. You have like people like Jake Shields suddenly coming out with the science of the Jew farts. You can. The only thing it is embarrassing. It's more embarrassing. I think for people like Candace, it's probably more embarrassing for her than someone like Jake Shields. Jake Shields has been punched in the face, his entire adult life, and nobody takes him seriously as a political commentator or something like that, or he's not a great thinker. Where Candace Owens did enjoy, many years being at the top of the conservative
It's like
side
that
of
kind of
politics.
online intellectual kind of conversations about social issues. Like she was a part of that conversation, and she still is, but she's kind of down one track where you see her as some individual that's
Why
kind
do
of
you
just
think why do you think that's happened to her? Like I have theories for everyone. With her, she's an interesting one. It almost feels like, to me, I'm looking at it, she's like, it's like the angry ex, like, who's just lashing out. She had a fight with this Jewish former boss, and now that's the only thing to me that explains it. Surely she's smarter than half the nonsense she spews. Do you even think she believes it?
It does feel like that, but I think she's kind of weighed up the odds and said, well, it doesn't really matter what people think, because there's actually an audience and there's a platform for this as well, and it's kind of in that gray area where you do have a bit of that kind of deniability around, not everyone's on the same page, particularly when it comes to Israel and Gaza. Like, you have mixed views,
and that's
depending on
fine.
where you're from. No, but I'm saying, depending on which part of the world you're from, it's an issue that you can exploit for whichever view that you want to have, and people have been doing it for decades now. So she's kind of finding that, with the current way things are and the way that she feels, that she's happy to kind of fit into that circle at the moment. And look, she is someone that I've seen over the years. You know this, like Candace Owens started out as somewhat of a leftist, as she's changed into being a MAGA person. She's changed, and then she kind of changed when she went to Daily Wire, and now she's changed again. And she's someone that's capable of changing again without any kind of self-reflection, I think, looking at her past. So potentially in the future, she might have a totally different view. But she's so smart in the way that she presents herself that the average person that's watching it doesn't really understand.
I think a lot of people. I think a lot of people see her now.
A lot of people do that are paying close attention, but the average person that's not paying too close of attention to her will think that she's just passionately speaking about the current issues.
She cares so much. I know. I am starting to question people that change their position so drastically, especially more than once. Like, I get it if you've shifted your worldview one time as you grew older. What's that saying? You start off as a socialist, and then you end up as you grow up, you turn into a staunch capitalist, because you realize, I can't remember what the saying exactly is, but basically you realize
reality kicks in.
When life hits you, when you start having to pay your own bills, you realize that maybe we should be able to keep what we earn, and we should be able to earn more. But to jump around these issues and go from one side, being staunchly this, and then going the exact opposite. Yeah, I don't know. I guess it's a history of it. Anyways, that was an interesting one. Her reaction, and there was a bunch of those people on that side, but I think most people were mocking them today, which is what they deserve. In fact, I got to say, I was having a lot of fun over Christmas. Did you see that she took that joke super hard?
Oh yes, the Babylon Bee. Yeah, so she's been consistently talking about that joke, and it's not something that I've focused on too much, but I know you've had a lot of.
I was just, you know what? Because I think the best way to deal with this kind of, look, she always goes for the low hanging fruit, like Rabbi Shmuley. Like, let me put it out to you, ladies and gentlemen. Rabbi Shmuley is the most hated rabbi in the Jewish community as well. So, like, picking on him and pretending like he's some sort of representation of the Jewish community is just laughable, because literally no one likes him, even within our community. But it's easy, because you can pick on somebody like that and go, oh, look, this is what the Jewish community thinks. And no one in the Jewish community agrees with Rabbi Shmuley. Like, almost nobody. But it's easy to get clicks and likes. But let's go down to where she having a cry about a joke. Where was it? Oh, did she share the actual joke? I don't think she shared. I think the Babylon Bee is pretty funny with what they've done. Did she share the?
But basically, the Babylon Bee made a joke about her, that she was shocked or something when she found out that Jesus Christ was a Jew, or something along those lines.
What happened? Why is my one not loading? Oh, here we go. Here we go. By the way, did you have a Christmas tree?
I did not have a Christmas tree this year.
Look at me, and that's a Jew with a Christmas tree. Just saying.
It looks about bigger than you.
Yeah, it's a very small tree. Look, Candace Owens horrified to learn Christmas was started by the birth of a Jew, and the meltdown over this joke. And the thing is, like, all those people crying about it, they're the first to laugh at any other joke. It's actually a genuinely funny joke, I think, no matter where you sit on it.
In the context of what's happening around her and the discussions around her and what people say, whether it's true or not, it's a funny joke. And Babylon Bee does this to many different people. And, you know, from my experience, I closely follow Babylon Bee. They mock everyone, and it's usually very funny. And conservatives especially support the humor of Babylon Bee. I think even the whole kind of what predicated the purchase of X by Elon Musk starts with the whole censoring of Babylon Bee. So, you know, comedy, making fun of people, whether you are kind of in the same circles, maybe, and you make fun of woke people as well. Sometimes you end up being the butt of the joke, and that's just kind of life. That's how it is. But
and
yeah, you're right.
He made the point. Well. He made the point. What's his name? Seth
Dillon.
Yeah. He made the point that when they copped it for the racist 7-Eleven joke against Vivek Ramaswamy.
Yeah. I mean, Vivek ate it up. He played it along.
He just leaned into it and went along with it, and everyone was like, "Oh, you're legend." Whereas she's like acting like, "Oh, you guys have an agenda." It's like, dude, she's basically challenging them to a debate or a conversation, whatever it was. It's like a debate. Anyways, let's move on. What is the other news that's... Let me see
the next one. Yeah, this is a bit of a strange one, actually, because this is something that I was reluctant to get involved in.
The Indian one?
When I saw this. Yeah, the Indian one.
Do I have one of those?
I was reluctant. Might be somewhere. I was reluctant to get involved in it for many different reasons, but mainly because it was a US issue discussing around these H-1B visas for skilled migrants. And a lot of the migrants that people were discussing at that time were these Indian skilled workers.
Let's pull up your tweet about it, because your tweet was so long and I never read it.
And the only reason I got involved was I saw some of that discussion had obviously spilled over into Australia, because there was a bit of this back and forth between the MAGA group. People were saying it's a MAGA Civil War, that people were Elon versus the other MAGA people who were USA first, and some were just Elon first or globalist first, whatever. So it was a bit of an argument, like a civil war debate that was happening on X, mainly between conservatives, to do with visas, American workers, migrant workers, skilled migration, all that kind of thing. But I did see that at a certain point, the more extreme elements of the right used it as a entry point to, I guess, share their own particular views about certain races and people and what they believe a country entails and the makeup of a country. So that's the reason that I made a comment on it. And I was just not even sharing my particular opinion on the American issue, but just saying, like, this is probably the mindset of migrants that most people don't understand. And I try to just bring that from the fact that I've been around migrant populations all my life in Australia, and there is a bit of a difference in terms of the motivations and the ambitions for migrants that perhaps not understood by the wider community if you're not a part of those communities. So that's where my views came from. It's largely been sorted out now in terms of, in the MAGA group, Donald Trump's come out and said that he supports Elon's particular view that skilled migration is of course important, but there needs to be reform in the H-1B visa program because it is being abused. And definitely I agree that type of program is rife when it comes to being abused. But I think it just took a dark turn in terms of the way that it was being discussed online, and it became very racially tinged, the conversations, and very nationalistic and ethno-nationalistic in terms of people's particular views. And I think that got a lot of people in different communities worked up over it as well. But since Trump's come out and shared some shared a bit of Elon's views about the American worker, as well as the importance of having skilled migration from overseas. The debate slowed down a little bit.
Yeah, so to be honest, I wasn't watching it too closely. I was kind of in holiday mode. So I can't really find that long. It was a very long tweet. What were you saying in it?
Oh, look, I mean, this is the thing, because it all kind of blew up. This whole issue became even more polarizing, I guess, in the MAGA movement when Vivek Ramaswamy made a tweet about it as well. And to just summarize his thoughts, his ideas, he was basically trying to say that the motivations and the ambitions of, let's say a migrant or an ambitious migrant, skilled migrant, or a migrant that comes to the country with their children, the ambitions for them to get ahead in life is very different to the modern day, American ambition, especially for children, especially when it comes to things like education. The motivations are very different. So generally, things like getting ahead through education, getting a job, aspiring to have a home, and all these kind of things. The Asian mindset, actually, as it is right now, there's traits there where they work harder, which enables them to take those opportunities in a way that perhaps the American people, whether it doesn't matter what race of American, are struggling with right now. And that's perhaps why you're seeing this shifting. And that's really what America needs to address, having a different motivation, a different ambition for America, especially if it wants to be competitive with Asians or with China or the rest of the world, especially when it comes to technology, that you have to change your mindset as a nation. And Vivek saying that, I think, pissed off a lot of people. And that really became about, hey, what are these Indians saying? The American way is fine. We don't care if it's, bad or whatever, as long as the Americans have jobs. That's all that's important. We rather have, a crappy education system. I'm just paraphrasing some of the comments I'm seeing. We would rather have a crappy education system as long as the workers are American and the jobs go to Americans. We don't want any foreign workers. And you have to understand, this H-1B visa thing is for about 90,000 workers per year that come in. And America has a problem with illegal immigration, where you have millions of people, illegal immigrants, coming through the border unchecked. Now, that was a major focus, of course, of the Trump election. But then this visa thing with the skilled workers became a massive point of inflection for the MAGA movement. And I think a lot of that goes to the fact that, since defeating the Democrats so badly, they really haven't had much to, challenge or argue or points to get across. And they've kind of turned on each other on some of these issues and focused their social media capital in terms of, arguing, because that's what a lot of conservatives like to do, like, debate issues onto each other. And it kind of blew up because of that.
Well, I found... When I was looking at it from the side, but just for transparency, do you feel like you just have to defend the Indians because?
No, I'm an Indian. So no, I'm an Indian. Like, look, it's kind of
I'm just mucking around.
It's really interesting because people take offense to the things that I'm saying or that Vivek is saying. Especially, I found recently, of course, even some of more so the ethno-nationalist and the Nazi adjacent types. They take a lot of offense to it because they just don't like the fact that someone that looks like me, that that believes I'm an Australian, they don't like me saying the things that I'm saying about the issues with the country. Their whole argument is, well, if you guys are so good, if your education system is so good, why don't you fix the crap, just to say what they're saying, the crap hole that is India? Why don't you just stay there and fix that? We don't need you here. If you're so great, stay there. Why is your country so bad? And we don't want you here. So that's kind of the argument. And the thing where that falls apart is, obviously, like, what they want is mass deportation of everyone. They want, like, a lot of the comments towards me is directly about, hey, we're just going to deport you. We don't want to even hear your views. We're just going to deport you, right? And this is complete fantasy.
Yeah.
Right? This is complete fantasy. It's not going to happen. Like, if you look at the numbers of migration into Australia, immigration, like, it's completely, like, it's crazy, right? In terms of how many immigrants are coming into the country. And these things are not going to be, there's not going to be like an ethno-nationalist party that comes in and just deports everyone. Like it's wishful thinking. It's just fantasy.
They're dreaming, but they're all a bit of a joke to me. One of the things that I've always advocated is quality immigration over quantity. So we want skilled workers. We don't want to take people from war-torn situations who we don't know how they're going to land, and just looking at those kind of programs and how those sorts of communities have.
Well, I'll just read a comment. There's a comment that just came on the screen. If you can put it up from Hannah Jinx. This is kind of the Rukshan. It says Rukshan is the wrong color.
That one?
Yeah. So yeah, like this one, like Rukshan is the wrong color to be speaking about Aussie politics. These people can't be honest about nation and immigration. Now, this is what I want to try to explain to people, right? Well, so when I talk about this issue, Avi, is the fact that it's too late. When I say it's too late, I don't mean like the people have replaced you and they've taken over Australia. I'm saying waves of immigration have come to Australia for decades and decades now. There are multiple generations of Indians that are living here that have had their parents here, their grandparents here, and they're ingrained within the fabric of the Australian society. So those kind of comments don't make sense, especially when you have more migration that's happening right now as well. And what's going to happen is, the reality of it is, the political class, the left-wing politics especially, the Labour Party, the Greens, what do? They co-opt these migrant populations into their ideological worldview. They tell them that the Conservatives are all racist and they all hate you.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, when it comes to election time, overwhelmingly these populations vote for these left-wing parties, and then they set the policy, and it continues and it keeps on going forward. So when people tell me, oh, you can't talk about Australian politics, I'm telling you, like, the way that it's going, we have to talk about Australian politics, because there are migrants like myself.
Why can't you talk about? Why can't you talk about Australian politics?
Because the whole thing is that I'm not white, so I'm not white, so I'm not Australian. That's the whole argument, that you're not white, you're not Australian. But I'm trying to explain to them that, some of the things that they take offense to, it's too late. Like, there are migrants like myself who look like me, who are Australian, who understand that we do have too much unchecked migration in this country, and who understands that for Australians, yes, it's hard to buy a home, it's hard to do things. For people who have grown up in this country and done things in this country, it's very hard when the immigration numbers keep going up, because we're competing with the people that are coming into this country as well, of course. But we also understand that to fix that is not going to happen with deportation. To fix that is going to happen when you have a majority of people who understand the problem, who vote in the correct politicians, who can create the correct policies around immigration, and who value the country, who are assimilating into the country. And right now in Australia, in the last decade, even last 20 years, that has not been happening. People who come to Australia are going into enclaves. They're not assimilating into the culture. They're voting for the Greens. They're voting for Labor predominantly. Those parties are pushing mass migration because they increase their voter base. They stay in power for longer.
Yeah.
And it's just a cycle. And these wishful thinking of these people who
I don't think we could take them seriously. Like that was.
Well, we can't take them seriously because
But
I can't.
And the thing is, like, what I saw unfolding online, and I was so in holiday mode. I'm only coming out of it now with a major hangover. But when I saw it, just watching on Twitter what was going on, you could see it's like this vitriolic fringe that we're just using it all as an excuse to actually be racist. And I don't like that a bit like anti-Semitism, a bit like all these words when it comes to hating different groups. And I also think like anti-white race, all of that, like these people that trade in that political discourse, if you want to call it that, that they just look for any excuse to do so. A lot of these people, when you talk about the fight in the right from that, I feel like a big portion of those that were just being full-on racist, they weren't real Trump supporters anyways. They're the ones that were also pushing against Trump towards the end, because Trump has always been, maybe not on the visa stuff, but like Israel was a great example, super consistent on his position on that. And they've all been pretty vocal. It's the same people that have been really super vocal against Israel. So I don't think there was like this huge breakdown in the right. There certainly were people. I'm not going to deny that. I could see people that were Trump supporters and that were upset about this whole visa situation. I couldn't care enough because it's about American stuff to be able.
Well, it's happening here as well. You know,
sure. So in our context here, I think you're deluded if you think migration is not going to happen. And also, I think there's certainly a place for migration. It just needs to be good, quality, high skilled. I think color matters less than ensuring that we bring people here that can integrate. So it's about values, morals, ability, skills, work, you know, people that are going to come here. Look at some of our migrant communities here. They're awesome. Like you go to some of these areas where they've worked hard and they've integrated into Australia and they've become a big part of what Australia is. And, you know, they're not overrepresented in the crime statistics. They've worked super hard. They've built a big part of it. Those are the people we want. Those that are just going on on either side, anybody that goes on about race specifically, I just ignore them. I can't be bothered with them because there's no point in talking to them. They can go live in a fantasy island where we can go back in time 100 years and make it all white, but even then it wasn't white. Like, then you can't take them seriously.
Yeah, but you can't take them seriously. But what happens is during a discussion like this, those kind of people with the ethno-nationalist or extremist views, they'll try to co-opt the moderates into being like, well, it's because they're a different racial type.
Well, they use slogans.
They do that for everything, right? That's the whole thing. And the only reason I engage with it is because I'm like, this is, for me, it's like my humiliation ritual for some of these individuals because they've just kind of completely lost any kind of perspective. They're not going to be able to make any type of difference with the extremist views that they have. That extremist group have actually been rejected by their own race. Yeah, honestly, I'm being completely honest. They're the outcasts of their own racial group, and their own racial group in the left wing politics, who do have the mainstream media, who do have all of these things, use that power to co-opt migrants into these kind of ideological viewpoints. Where it's and I agree with some of the comments here that people are saying migrants like look at Australia and look at Australians perhaps as being not important. They kind of promote their own cultures, they promote their own religions and all these kind of things, but they do that because they're being co-opted into that worldview. When my parents came here 30-40 years ago, that was not the case. Migrants respected Australia. Now how did that change, right? So back then it wasn't like this, and it's really radically changed over the last 5 years, where we have a lot of sentiment in this country where you have to hate this country. The flag doesn't represent you. The anthem doesn't represent you.
Exactly, and that's the problem.
The land is not yours. You have to be welcomed to the country by the Aboriginal people here. The people who are here, who are white, they don't even belong here. They're colonizers. So this is the kind of environment that migrants are coming into. And you can't necessarily just blame migrants for the way that they're kind of growing up in Australia, because this is the country that the political class in this country has created. So you have to change that. And to change that, you also now, unfortunately for some of these people that might not like it, they need some of these migrants on board as well, because they're going to become a massive voting bloc. The Indian population, so a lot of people were sharing photos of New Year's from different capital cities, and you look at it, you look at the demographics of the people who are outside celebrating New Year's. The majority of them look South Asian, Chinese, African. There's a massive mix of them. Unfortunately, whether you guys like it or not, they're going to become a massive political voting bloc. And those,
like, that's the thing. People, I can see how they.
And I understand that, like, for some people, like they don't like that, or they're scared of that, and they think the country's changing. And a lot of that is true. But the replacement kind of stuff that people are talking about, it's not happening, and it's not being done on purpose. It's happening in a way that where people aren't actually fighting for the country. And if you go along with these extremist ideas, you're going to lose even more.
You're going to lose,
because the other side of politics are very smart. They understand, and they want this extreme push. They want this racism to exist because they use that division to draw people towards them. And if you want to have Australia first, and if you want to promote Australian values and preserve Australian culture, well, you need to create the kind of country and the community and the people to do that. And unfortunately, for a lot of these extremists, it's going to have to involve people that look like me, who are also Australian, And if you guys aren't up to the task, because some of you guys aren't up to the task from the commentary that I'm seeing, well, then we will also do that as well. And we'll try to preserve some of the great things about this country, because that's what it takes. Because the other side of politics, they're steamrolling ahead, and they're not as stupid as some of the people who are just, personally, my personal belief is, just talking complete nonsense. And they're going to get nowhere, and they're just making it worse for everyone with their extremism.
That's the thing. If you actually care about Australia, I think you've got to ensure we're bringing in people and encouraging people who are coming here that are going to love Australia and going to help build it, rather than people that are going to bring their racial, sectarian hatred. And that can come from any group. So whether it's your white supremacists, your Islamo-fascists, your whatever other sectarian group.
Yeah.
When people come here, you want... What is that? I
was going to say, we got a rein in immigration. Like, immigration is out of control. Like, it's, I'm saying that honestly, immigration is out of control. Assimilation is not happening whatsoever. People don't really care about Australia that come here. But those people have no idea that it's like that. They have no idea that's
But that's I guess that's what I'm saying. That's where the fight needs to be. We need to be encouraging good immigration. So, as in, like I said, people that are going to build up Australia, but people pride of Australia. So when they come here, instead of allowing the left to control the narrative around our country, so encouraging people who are new to here to bag out the country, to criticize everything about its foundation. And I agree, like if you come here, it means you want to be here. But that's a privilege, and you should be proud to be a part of it. And if you're not, you shouldn't be welcome here.
Yeah, and I'm reading some of the comments. Like, there's people saying they can't find a rental at the moment. They're saying like in IT, Indians only hire Indians, and I think there is truth to a lot of these issues, especially around the rental market, the property market, the way that things are happening. It's really crap. Like, even for me, because I grew up in Australia, like, my ideas around owning property, and I went through like the Australian way. So I know people that have come here after me, who have just come here in the last 5 to 10 years, who are doing better than me in that regard.
Yeah.
Because they have a different mind frame and a mindset. So we're not really preparing people for those things. And of course, our government and our politicians are also letting people down in this regard. But, it's like they're bringing in migrants to fix economic issues, but they're also creating more economic issues.
And there's legitimate discussion around all those issues. You can talk about migration, immigration. You can discuss the issue without going full on racist, like I saw happening online.
Exactly. You don't need to bring race into it. Like in that way. You
can 100% be against all immigration. Even like that's an okay position to have, if it's not based on just we want to keep Australia white. The idea is it should be we want to facilitate. We want to ensure Australia's culture and our values are preserved and encouraged, and before we bring more people in who potentially will help ruin it. That's where it is for me.
I agree with you. I do have set sympathies around the fact that white people are blamed for things that they shouldn't be blamed for by these left-wing ideology, right? It happens. Like, I know that. You have the history of the West is not appreciated. The things that have been built by the West
it's vile, but you're not going to make it better by encouraging, firstly, by being blatantly racist, where they can just say, you see, the white people are all racist. You're not helping this situation, and you're allowing them to bring in more people who are going to hate the country.
Yeah, because people might think, I'm popular with like the the Indian population and the Sri Lanka. I'm not. Like, I'm not popular in that kind of political context, because they are all majority of them vote for Labor. So someone like me is an anomaly in that sense. But that's because I've grown up more with Australian Christian Catholic style values, maybe, that have ingrained me into this country. And I was lucky and fortunate enough to grow up in Australia in the 90s, when it wasn't about hating this country and it was about assimilating into Australian culture. So I grew up in that world, and a lot of people perhaps in my generation did that way as well. But now it's a different game, And I'm not just up against, these crazy ethno-nationalist, Nazi-adjacent individuals who are not going to really move the policies in this country whatsoever, because they just get either legally ignored, politically ignored. There'll be social outcasts of their own racial groups, like I said before. I'm not just against them. I'm also against the other Indians and Sri Lankans and other Asians who have been persuaded by the left wing that, Rukshan is also a ethno-nationalist, racist Nazi. Like, that's kind of the world that we're up against. So that's what conservatives are up against. And, if you want to change migration, you have to change the discussion around how you assimilate into this culture, and you have to get people politically engaged, even people you don't like for whatever reason, that don't look like you because of white Australia, whatever it is. You have to get them involved in the conversation and actually make sure Australia is prosperous for yourself and for your families. And really, I honestly believe, save some of the great things about Australia, because it is changing so rapidly, so fast. And I share the same concerns, but it's not going to be one through calling people Indians and telling them to go back and deporting people and all these kind of fantasy ideas that will
I do think there's a place to deport people, but it's people that
illegal immigrants, deport all the illegal immigrants,
illegal people that come in, commit crimes.
Or, deport them, deport the fake asylum seekers. There's so many of them. Like, deport
exactly,
all
and the rest of it, let's have a proper discussion around it. I don't even know. Like, I would like to look at the. I do think we're bringing in way too many people, and we don't have the infrastructure. We're not set up for it. We're not ready for it. And I do believe that Labor is just importing votes. That's what it is to them. The Greens support it because it's importing votes, as you've said a few times before. And we need to stop that immediately. If that means halting all immigration right now, I fully support stopping immigration now and working out who we really want here. And to me personally, as long as we have the infrastructure and we're ready and it helps our economy, I want to have people here that are going to be proud about this country, and even with all its flaws, are going to want to help build it, not tear it down further. On that note, I would say we deport you.
Yes, there's plenty of people lining up. I've actually been given some of these ethno-nationalists have said within 10 years, that's the 10-year working plan that they have. Within 10 years, I'll be deported. So that's what they're going to do. And I put that up there, and let's see what happens. Will I be deported in 10 years? Let's have a look.
This is probably the only thing I agree with them on. Okay. What else what were the other issues that we were going to quickly, what was this video? Let me just watch this.
H-1B visas, that's not what it's about. Or wages.
Former Trump advisor Steve Bannon ramping up his criticism of the visa program today, arguing that Americans deserve reparations for having to coexist with immigrants on H-1B visas. That comes after Trump told the New York Post, "I've always liked the visas," even though he criticized them while running for president in 2016.
Now saying, "I have many H-1B visas on my properties. I've been a believer in H-1B. It's a great program." The controversy has been dividing Republicans for days. Some of Trump's closest advisors, including billionaire Elon Musk, have been defending the program, along with others in the tech industry, which relies heavily on those workers. Some Republicans skeptical of the program.
I think the abuses of the H-1B program have been evident.
One far-right activist even slamming Trump's new artificial intelligence advisor for supporting easing restrictions on skilled foreign workers in the past. The immigration issue revealing a rift in Trump's coalition weeks before his inauguration, pitting the populist MAGA wing of the GOP against business leaders.
Trump appearing to agree with Musk this summer.
Somebody graduates at the top of the class, they can't even make a deal with a company because they don't think they're going to be able to stay in the country. That is going to end on day one.
Over the weekend, Musk threatened to, quote, go to war on the issue, but later wrote that the program is broken and needs major reform. It all comes as the tech industry faces another looming battle, a ban on TikTok in the U.S. set to begin.
It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I think the left and the mainstream media are rubbing their hands together, hoping that this is the end of the Trump. And I think there is a lot more.
It's a minor issue. I think Trump has to get over the hurdle of actually dealing with the illegal immigrants first. When he's actually in power, that will be the
But
first.
I think when we talk about the minor issue, I think that there's that group within the so-called right that are trying to take down Trump, and they're going to jump on every little issue. But as long as Trump stays consistent to what he wants to do and doesn't get swayed, which he hasn't indicated at all that he cares about that lot, which is kind of pissing him off. You know, it's the same group. The ones that are really pushing it is the same group that were campaigning against him. Now, the mainstream, like NBC, is going to call them MAGA, but they weren't MAGA. They may have been MAGA a day here, a day there, but a lot of those that are really pushing against not Laura's the one they showed there. She's been like super MAGA, but a lot of those that are that were campaigning in this last week, that are some of the loudest voices in that argument and targeting Elon. They're angry about everything else. They're just trying to jump on it, and I don't think they're going to have much success, to be honest, because I don't think.
No, I mean, Trump's kind of got on his way on this H1B thing. I think he's going to get his way on that. He's already got his way on the speaker, which they were against as well. That block.
Yeah, exactly. Like I just don't think. I don't think it matters. I think,
and they just move on.
I think Jan really 20 is going to be fun.
Jan 20 is going to be fun, and when Trump's back in office and he's trying to deport, these illegals that have come to the country, millions and millions of them.
Yeah.
You will see the Democrats and the media fight against him, and that will be the biggest fight that they have, I think, for the first, because that's going to be a major policy issue that he promised that he will deliver. And when that starts happening, and when you're going to have the AOCs and all those type of political hacks, doing the theatrics, it's going to be on. And I think a lot of the focus is going to go back to that, because really, is it really about 80,000 legal migrants coming to?
No, most people that are arguing out that. I think most of the arguing are doing it in bad faith. Let's. What I reckon we do.
Well, the next one was, I think, based on this, was around demonetization on.
Yeah. Do you want? Should we just go into the two platforms before we do it?
Yeah, we can just go into X.
So what we're gonna do? I am so. Tired from partying too much. I've just straighten up. But hey, it is.
This is a warm up podcast, guys. We're just getting back into it after all the holidaying and partying.
The funny thing is, you didn't party at all.
I know, but still, I'm just tired from doing nothing and eating. I'm
super scattered is probably the word.
Yeah, scattered is the word. So this is a warm up. We'll be fully.
We'll be back into it by next week.
Back into it properly next week.
But let's go. Let's quickly discuss these last two issues, guys. We're going to go over to, because, like we said in the beginning, the second issue we're going to discuss today we can't really do on Meta or YouTube, so we're going to go over just to X and Rumble, or on the opposition.show, and then we'll open up maybe for a couple of calls. We'll see how we go tonight. I think we'll ease into it today. But the opposition.show, if you want to call in, just press the button below it. We might take a call too while we're on the free speech platforms. Otherwise, we'll stick around for about 5 minutes at the end and give you a chance to call in. But don't expect too much, because Rukshan made me drink all those gin and tonics in the last. I had I drank 2 bottles of gin in 2 days.
Yeah. I know you did.
Okay. That is, so let me just shut down the main channels.
I'm reading some comments here, people saying, we should engage more with the comments and stuff. We normally do. I was just a bit slow today, so apologies on his behalf, because he's just managing it, and I think the last thing he can do is also read comments as well. He doesn't seem to be all